What's up, everybody? We got episode 3 of Creature Commandos this morning, and there's a couple things to dive into. Before we get into the breakdown, make sure to subscribe so you're not missing out on any videos throughout the week. Now, let's get into it. We picked up right where we left off in the premiere as the team goes to save the bride and Nina at Frankenstein's lab. That leads us into a GI robot flashback as Sergeant Rock and Easy Company, who are getting their own movie in the DCU, make their DCU debut. Some of my favorite things about this wild bunch of some of the best soldiers you've ever seen are their nicknames, which you hear sprinkled in the episode, were a method of protection from the effects of war on the boys. Rock believed that if they left the names behind at those wars after doing things that would haunt them forever, that they could leave the wars behind too. The team was also a pioneering force in World War II, breaking the color barrier. Jackie Johnson was allowed on the team, defying the segregation of the army at the time. That factor actually led to one of my favorite Sergeant Rock moments in Bruce Campbell's Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead, where Jackie has to disguise himself as a Nazi and Rock isn't worried about it because they'll be wreaking havoc by the time he's discovered as an imposter. This group is just a strong band of brothers who are fighting for each other no matter what, and they're definitely a little bit crazy too, for the better. But there is one nitpick I have with Easy Company's appearance, and it's that Gunn just kind of shrugs off Sergeant Rock's only true superpower, if you want to call it that. For context, Sergeant Rock has this sort of sixth sense where he senses incoming enemies and can warn the boys. But in this scene, they're surrounded by the enemy, close quarters even, and he has to be warned by their sniper, Little Sure Shot. It's a minor detail, but it would have been nice to see that power on display here. Anyway, the team rescue the bride and Nina and realize it was all too easy as Cersei is going for the palace and GI Robot rushes Nina out in the tub because her helmet broke. But we're taken into another flashback before we get there as William Magnus made his DCU debut during this one. In the comics, Magnus created the Metal Men, a group of 6 robots made of 6 different metals. We saw those on Magnus's whiteboard or chalkboard here, and they were mercury, iron, platinum, tin, lead, and gold. Then, and this is just a baseline theory, so not too deep yet, but I think there's a chance he's tied to the engineer in the DCU since he's seemingly Waller's mechanic and Alan Tudyk, who has a mystery role in Superman, voice a mad scientist, plus we see the engineer with Rick Flag Sr. Then back in the present, the sons of Themyscira lay siege on the palace and the princess actually held her own against the attackers too. But the commandos come in and save the day anyway, with GI Robot finally getting to kill Nazis again, or so Flag tells him. That was cut with another flashback, and this one was the best of them, as it's cut side by side with GI Robot taking out Nazis in the past and the sons of Themyscira in the present. It reminded me a lot of that iconic church massacre in the movie Kingsman: The Secret Service, but if I'm being honest, these flashbacks messed with the flow of the episode way too much. Those seem to be GI's last kills though, as he's taken to Belle Reve, and we got a couple cameos, but I unfortunately am only familiar with one of these back of the rotation guys, and that's the ridiculous animal, vegetable, mineral man. It doesn't matter how ridiculous those were, though, because this served its purpose of GI finally getting to kill Nazis with his family again before Cersei turns him into a pile of scrap metal. She follows that by going after the princess after her foot soldiers failed her, and she's one badass chick, so it looked like she might win this one, but then Weasel, of all the commandos, comes screeching in to save the princess, and Phosphorus seasons the meat for their barbecue, putting their monstrous sides on full display for the horrified Rick Flag Sr. Now, the one thing that came to mind here, as far as theories go, just to wrap the video up here, was what if Cersei is telling the truth about being on the right side? She of course says the whole world is going to burn once she's captured, and we're not going to get too crazy here, but I tweeted this last week and want to revisit it. I said, what if Waller sent Clayface, now disguised as a princess, to Pekolistan to play both sides of this fight for her own political gain, and that would advance Flag's story too. And I'm kind of starting to get all in on that idea now. I might have a longer video diving into it in its entirety out later this week, but after watching the princess fight this week, I'm pretty convinced That's Clayface. But overall, I thought that was just an okay episode. The flashbacks really messed up the momentum of the episode for me, as they felt like more than half of the episode, but at least, they were packed with stuff to dive into and had some very cool moments in there too with some of the action. I'm also just very intrigued to hear Cersei's side of the story now, mostly because of my theory. And so that'll do it for my breakdown of the third episode of Creature Commandos. The action being as good as it was ended up being the saving grace for this episode, but I'm still looking forward to the rest of the season. Let me know what you thought about the episode though down in the comments below and make sure you have a great day.